Stand over there.
Can you be more specific of what kind of questions, ma'am?
I don't have a category. Just about your process.
Process for what?
How you process complaints.
Okay, hold on one moment.
Good.
No misconduct?
They just opened the doors.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good.
What can we help you with?
Just had a couple questions about the process here. So when you go to file a complaint with the police department, once the watch commander or sergeant or whatever takes it, then that goes here?
Some of them might be assigned here. So by the way, I'm Sergeant Williams.
Okay.
And I work internal affairs here. We have different sections and different divisions. So we do two different types of investigations. One might be an administrative, and that would be, say, someone saying that the officer wasn't polite or they weren't professional or something like that, not alleging a crime.
Yeah.
Then we also have guys that investigate if there's an alleged crime that the officer was involved in. So there's two different sections that will investigate those, and then there's different sections for geographical areas. So it depends on where it happened, on where it would be assigned. So if it happens somewhere down at like USC, that wouldn't go to us. If it happens somewhere in the valley, then that would probably come to us. Investigations are also done in the division, so they have sergeant supervisors that may investigate the complaint at the division. So there's different ways that it's
So
investigated.
they determine whether or not you...
Well, internal affairs they determine it. So all the complaints are taken in and they're assigned a number, like a report number. Then that goes to a part of internal affairs that is called our classification unit, and they review what the complaint is, and then it will get assigned from there, whether it's going to go back to the division of origin, or sometimes people go to like a different division, make a complaint that happened in a different division. It might end up going back to them, but those are more the minor type of complaints. If it's something more serious, then it comes to internal affairs.
Okay.
So,
Have there ever been a study on the subsections of these complaints of what percentage is the greatest?
as far as
Like being
like
rude
category.
or stealing or abuse?
There may have. I mean, ultimately, everything's reviewed by the police commission, and then the
chief of police.
the chief of police, but also the IG.
Oh, yes, correct.
So
Inspector General.
Inspector General. So that's like there's a civilian oversight, and then all the way up to the top with our chief of police. I don't know what the percentages are right offhand. There may have been some kind of a study like that, but I don't have
Right, okay,
that knowledge off the top of my head.
right. Maybe it's on the internet, I don't know.
It might be. So.
Okay.
Have you ever witnessed any cover-up for any officers?
I haven't seen any kind of cover up, and I wouldn't, if I witnessed it, it wouldn't be covered up because that would be brought to light.
Have you ever turned anybody in for?
Have I ever turned anybody in? I have certainly reported things that could be construed as misconduct or anything like that, yes. Because that's my responsibility as a supervisor and also as a police officer. If we see something, we're gonna take action just the same. If we see someone out, like a civilian, committing a crime, we take an action. If we see an officer doing something that they're not supposed to, yeah, we're gonna take action. And if it's something like a discourteous thing or being unprofessional, then we need to take action for that and educate people, hey, that's not how you treat people. That's what we're all about, so.
Are you responsible for like when the courts order the pitches motion? Are you the ones who keep the?
No, that's a whole different section. So LAPD is a really big department. We're slotted to have 12,500 sworn police officers, then you also have civilian officers. So when we do investigations, it's not just on police officers. If there's a civilian employee that's involved with the police department and complaints made against them, we also investigate those. So I think what are we, if you count the civilians, about 15,000?
Around somewhere.
So somewhere around there. So that's why we have to have different sections to be able to get, but like I said, ultimately it will get funneled back into the final, people that make the final judgment, chief of police, inspector general, police commission, that kind of thing.
So because of technologies, because of different things like video cameras on YouTube and stuff like that, more and more videos are coming out of officers doing different things like violating people's rights, and a lot of different people are making different kinds of complaints, whether they're call floods or going in there to complain about something. Now that video's coming out, as much as it is now and in the future, is video and stuff like that going to be taken more into account when taking all these? And how can a civilian such as us, say for instance we see police misconduct, how could we submit and make sure that our report and our video is submitted to the right hands? And
So there's several different ways. One, you can walk into any police station and in the very front lobby they have complaint forms, or you could ask to talk to a supervisor and tell them what you saw or what you have, and that could be accepted in that way. There's also LAPD.online is a way of getting resources to contact things. Internal affairs number should be on there. You could send anything in anonymously. There's also a 800 number for internal affairs that's on all our business cards. So
a civilian could submit a complaint through with internal affairs without having to go through the police department?
Yep, they could do that. So, and like I said, that's an 800 number. You could also go online and look. It'll give you a direct line to go to internal affairs and everything else.
Is that standard in the profession? You can go directly to internal affairs?
I don't think that's standard if you're talking profession like police departments in general, not necessarily, because everyone has things set up a little bit differently with their internal affairs. Some may not even have something that they necessarily call like a internal affairs. They may have like a human resource department that might handle that, like handle multiple things for like the little agencies. I don't know how all of them do that. I just know how LAPD operates.
So what are the qualifications to get into this position? Internal.
So there's a separate interview to get into internal affairs. The majority, those that do the investigations, have to be a supervisor. So it's a rank of sergeant or above.
Gotcha.
So, and then you go through an application process where you have an oral interview with staff that they ask you questions specific to how you would handle things in internal affairs. And they're going to review your personnel package to see if you've had complaints, what kind of officer you are, that you have the right integrity to be able to come and do this kind of investigation. And they want someone with investigative skills too. Like myself, I've worked robbery, homicide, narcotics, domestic violence. I've worked a number of different assignments, detective assignments. So that would be one of the qualifications.
So that would be the purpose of being sergeant above, to make sure the people already coming in as an entry level already have experience with people below them and managing people.
Yes, that and you have to be a supervisor for LAPD to do any kind of an investigation like that. Like even our officers, if someone came up to one of our officers, I want to make a complaint, and they just handed them a letter or something like that, or a video like you were talking about, saying this shows misconduct, I want to turn this over for you guys to review. The officer could accept that, but we want they would ask to do is, can you wait a minute and talk to a supervisor? Because they want the supervisor to get that kind of information and everything we can so that we could do a thorough investigation. If that person didn't want to stay around, said here it is, no, I don't want to stay around, then they'll take that and deliver it to a supervisor. And that's where the process will begin.
Great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions?
When, say for instance, you do reprimand an officer, do you guys have any type of authority to make sure that the other officers in that department are following order? Or do you guys just reprimand that officer for safe? For instance, because what we see a lot out there is a lot of officers don't identify themselves when they're asked to. And that's, if that's policy, then that's what they're supposed to do. And a lot of people are now starting to realize that they should not obey an officer until the officer truly identifies himself, if he's stopping it for no reason or whatnot, you know. And that's not talking about the people that are committing crimes, that's the people that are not committing crimes.
Okay, so that may be a little bit of a misconception. You put a lot of things in there. So for one, if we have knowledge of a misconduct or alleged misconduct and it gets investigated and there's an investigation that shows that there was some neglect on the officer's part, whether it be policy and procedure or whether it be that they did something that is against the law, okay? There's different things that would be done. Like myself, I work the criminal side of things. If we find out an officer broke the law, we're gonna submit the case to the city attorney or district attorney. There's actually a special section with the district attorney's office that handles issues with police officers committing crimes. That is separate from everything else, a lot higher standard for those DAs to be there. Any of those crime reports get submitted to them. They make a determination of whether or not to file criminal charges. That's handled completely separate through the district attorney's office or the city attorney's office if it's other crimes that are filed or something like that. The department will then do an administrative penalty they can if it's shown that there's misconduct or something else. And that will be like, could be suspension days, that could be, okay, you messed up on this, you're saying that you weren't trained on it or something, it could be, we're gonna train you. And then if it happens again, then yeah, there's gonna be more severe penalties. Just like any other job, you get written up by a supervisor and then you do the same thing again, you could be fired or whatever else. That same kind of stuff happens with the LAPD when that kind of misconduct's done. Now when you're talking, the other thing you're talking about, officers not identifying themselves and everything else, they would have to be based on circumstances. If an officer's engaged in an investigation over here and someone comes up, hey, I want your name, they may, I'm not gonna give you my name right now. I gotta finish this first, okay? So, or just someone arbitrarily coming up, I want your name and badge number. We're not required to do that. What we're required to do it for is when we make a contact with somebody for an investigative purpose. So that's different than, I mean, really it's no different than if I'm walking by, hey, I want to know your name and your phone number and everything else. And you're like, who are you?
Right.
So it's a little bit different. But when we do engage and do an investigative stop or something like that, and someone asks for that information, then yeah, we should be giving that out.
So there's three options when you do an investigation for the officer. One is to be retrained, the second is suspension without pay, and the third is termination.
It varies. There's, like I said, there's variable options or various options depending on what is revealed in the investigation. So that would be something that where you see a sustained issue involved there, and that would come down through chief of police, or it could, if it's something of a minor nature, what I was talking about before, that could be investigated back at the division, like he called me a stupid jerk or something like that. That may be handled in the division, and the captain would do that, and that could be like they could talk to that person and say, hey, that's not how you treat people. That could be notice correct, an official reprimand, or something to that extent. So it may not be like a suspension day per se, but
Gotcha.
That would kind of be under like what you're saying, like the retraining kind of thing.
Right.
Retraining could also be in ways that a stop was done or something like that.
Gotcha.
So, and then there's also times when they do an investigation, and we all wear body-worn video now, most of our officers out in patrol. That I think there might be one or two divisions that they're still implementing that into, but almost all of them are gonna, everyone in patrol is gonna have body-worn video. We watch a video, someone alleges they did this, and we're watching the video, and that camera's on the whole time. It's like, that never happened. Then that's,
Dash cams too.
what's that?
Dash cams, yeah.
Yeah, most of the cars have them. Not all the divisions have them, and the car's operational yet. But yeah, they're getting them in there as well. So it may be unfounded or demonstrably false. Could be another way that something's adjudicated, or it may be we do an investigation just like a criminal investigation where a couple people get in a fight in a bar or something like that. You don't have any other witnesses. Is this person's word against this one? We have situations where we're like, we can't determine this. So it would be determined as unresolved, but that still would stay in that officer's package. And then later on, something similar happens, we could say, okay, well, this isn't normal. So it still is important for us to keep track of all that, and we do.
One more question.
Yes.
I've had people ask, when do you have to identify yourself? If you've been pulled over, you got asked out of your car, you're searching whatever, is it when you're detained, or is it when you're arrested or booked, or at what point do you have to identify yourself?
Okay, so that depends on the circumstance. If you're driving in the state of California,
Yeah.
you
You're not
gotta,
driving, you're walking, you're whatever.
if you're just
not
walking
driving.
down the street and something like that, and there's a lawful reason for them to detain you, you could ask, you could say, hey, why are you stopping me? But obviously, there's a difference in the way you react to the officers on how they're gonna react. If they feel threatened, then they're probably gonna put handcuffs on you and everything else. And sometimes that makes people more upset, but that's why we try and communicate with people. But if they're stopping you, there should be a reason for the stop. You can ask what the reason is. They should be able to tell you what the reason is. There may be circumstances in which things are going crazy and they're stopping a whole bunch of people right after a shooting. They might not tell you right away. So it depends on the circumstance. But let's say you're just walking down the street, officers stop you.
What if I disagree with the reason they're saying that it's a lawful order, and it say I'm suspicious? You can't make me ID because you think I'm suspicious. So if that's the case.
Well, if they're saying, okay, well, I'm detaining you here because you're suspicious in this thing, you don't want to tell them who or you are or anything like that, that may make the investigation take longer, because we're just trying to figure out, okay, is this person involved? What are they doing here? What was the actions that make me believe? We've had a whole bunch of car burglaries here. I saw this person, they're walking along and they're looking at all these cars trying the door handles, and they stop you. Well, I'm not telling you my name. Well, it's gonna make that investigation take a lot longer. So maybe.
But at what point do you have to be booked?
No, you don't have to be booked. I mean, you could not tell them your name the whole time, and if there's evidence that you committed the crime, you'll be booked as a Jane Doe or a John Doe or something like that until your fingerprints come back later. The bottom line is, the more you cooperate, the easier it is to come to an understanding of what's going on. The easier it is to find out from the officers, hey, why are you stopping me? It's just the same as me coming out here and talking to you right now. That's the bottom line. If you want to make it more difficult, it's just going to make things longer, and it's more difficult to do the investigation.
Fourth Amendment and not ID, then they can push it all the way to the.
They can push
ever tell them.
it. They can push it
Okay.
all the way. So, but that's not necessarily going to help you out in the long run.
So what about I'm on a sidewalk and I'm filming the exterior of a police station and the officer comes up, asks me what I'm doing. I
Okay.
tell him I'm doing a public interest story on where our tax dollars are going.
Okay.
And he doesn't like that answer. It's suspicious behavior. I'm filming a police station.
Okay. What they may ask you to do, and our guys are getting training on this and everything else as well. This is training that's been going on for a little while, but it's being implemented with officers at different times, because we have different officers on different schedules and everything else, and it's information that goes out. And not everyone, I'm sure, whatever your profession is, not everyone's 100% proficient on everything, all right? So we're constantly trying to train our guys. But basically, if you guys came to a police station, we would ask the same thing as anyone else. You could film as long as you're not interfering with the flow of business. We got people coming in to make reports, people that are victims of crimes and that kind of stuff. And we also have employees that are leaving in their personal vehicles and stuff like that, that would be a little concerned, because we do arrest bad guys. Why is somebody filming my car? Is this because they want to try and get my play, find out more information on me, that kind of stuff? So yeah, we may ask that question and everything else. So what the answer is, you should be told, yeah, you can do this. Can you please do it over here where you're not going to interfere with our flow of business and our victims coming in and being on film and already scared of being in the police station making a report for various things.
I just filmed the Palm Springs Police Department last month in the...
Well, I can't speak for
No,
Palm Springs.
I know. I'm not expecting you to. And I was on the outside and filming the outside, and they detained me for suspicion of trespassing in a public area.
Okay, and I don't know what Palm Springs, see, you also are talking about municipal codes, and I don't know if there's different municipal codes for, maybe they have something, because a city could make its own laws, right?
Regardless of their, I mean, like, do you?
Regardless, it's...
But I don't know Palm Springs.
We can't speak on another.
No, you don't.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're talking about. What you're explaining to me, I don't know what that law is that they're talking about and holding you in sight.
Yeah, well, it was bogus.
Trespass.